Hey everyone, welcome back to another of Vendal's weekly arcade quest tutorials. So I want to do a quick shout out to Black Power PR21, who is a friend that decided to help me a little bit in trying out this quest with two people. I had some footage from our time fighting together. We went through the quest a number of times, but some of the footage for some reason glitched out when we had a glitch earlier during one of our runs, and I lost like all of the footage from our runs except for the very last run we did where I was a shinobi. So I'll be featuring some of the things from that. I want to say that he plays very, very well. And it's sad because some of his amazing moments I didn't manage to catch on video, but they'll be here later. So this quest is kind of cool. As an introduction to it, it's entirely snow-based and frost-based, and with it, it adds a new modifier to the game that I like to call Frostbite. So this Frostbite modifier makes you take damage when you're out of stamina, and a fair portion of damage at that, which means it's something you have to be really aware of over the course of this quest. With that, we'll go ahead and start getting into the quest. But I just wanted to also say that I really like the fact that they have a new modifier in arcade mode, because that breathes new life into it, I think, and suggests in the future that they'll be adding more modifiers that'll make the game mode more interesting and unique as time moves along. And I'm excited about that. So for this first phase, we get introduced to the modifier, this Frostbite modifier, that makes it so that when we're out of stamina, we take just damage over time, and a fair amount of damage over time, so you really have to play it safe. All the enemies in this fight are based around the main idea of just dropping your stamina, all the way through the quest. While this quest is loading up, how I handle this is fairly simple. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about character choice, as I usually do, even though I got a little bit late to it this time. Characters with pushes and grabs are going to be really nice just because you can manipulate the placement of the enemies, make use of the spike walls and ledges, of which there are quite a few. Fast characters are also valuable for any stage that has a variety of different traps, such as this one, because you'll be able to get around the traps and position so that the enemy goes into them reliably. Additionally, having a character that has either a full block or a reactionary counter is really handy against most of the enemies on this fight because most of them are fairly slow in some of their actions and therefore really easy to counter or parry appropriately, such as this warlord who you'll see a couple of times over the course of the fight, and a Shigoki later. But anyways, the general strategy for this fight is pay real close attention to your stamina, which is why you see me trying to counter a lot instead of being offensive. And just slowly take down the enemies if you want to go at it the appropriate way. If you want to go at it the cheap way, there is a small tunnel with the spike walls that you start in at the very beginning, and you can lure all the enemies there and then kick them into walls. Additionally, there's a variety of traps layered throughout the scene. I'm terrible at fighting JJs still, and so because of that, you'll see that I make use of a variety of different traps here just to make my life a little bit easier. This was a poor attempt to get him into this one, but it actually worked out, so I was happy with it. But anyways, using the traps is definitely a convenient way to take him out, especially because the traps remove stamina in this particular weekly quest. Thus, it triggers the frostbite on the enemies as well, as the enemies always have that debuff as well throughout this quest until the final phase. Here's that little bit that I was talking about me being terrible at fighting JJs. I was debating finding another trap here, but instead I just timed all my parries wrong, got beat up a little bit before finishing them off. But anyways, that's essentially all you do for this first phase. As far as doing it with a team, just have one person go to lure out one of the enemies and then bring them back to the spike pit and kick them into the hole. I'm not going to show footage of it because this is one of the ones that I failed to record successfully for whatever reason. So now getting into phase 2, this one is called Strength and Resilience. You're up against a JJ and a Conqueror, and once again there are some exploits available on the map, but these two in particular are actually pretty easy to handle or deal with, and they're in fact I would say much easier. This phase is much easier than phase 1. And part of the reason for that is one of them has a damage debuff while having max hit points up, the other one has a damage buff but max hit points down. Neither of them have an over-effective amount of stamina damage, therefore the freeze to death isn't a terrifying thing. So as far as going against them the fair way, really the best way to handle this fight is just try to take out the JJ a little bit before you get engaged by both of them, and then utilize revenge. A few things to note: as you engage the JJ, he tends to open with his overhead heavy, which is perhaps the most punishable of all the JJ's moves, because even if he goes into his kick, dodging to the side and then opening with an attack, there will be enough recovery time, generally speaking, for you to get a hit off safely. Also, if you put them together, obviously they'll help each other, as the JJ just took out the Conqueror for me right there. In just a second here, I'll be showing a little bit of how to do it the exploit method, which is definitely kind of the funner, that's not a word, more enjoyable method of handling this quest, I think, just because of how quick and smooth it can go if you line things up just right. So first off, there's a little tiny ledge just over here. The JJ likes to open swing really hard whenever he chases people down, so it's really easy to kick him off if that's what you've got going on. Conqueror will always target your friend if you're doing it with a friend, and pays attention to him. One of the nice things is, even though they're level 3 AIs, they tend not to follow their external attackers as much, and it's pretty easy to get a variety of different bashes off and take the win there. So this next phase, the Butterfly, the Stag, and the Swan, is a 3-enemy fight, no surprise based on the title, against a Shigoki, a Conqueror, and the Warlord from the beginning, from the first phase. All of them, again, and you are dealing with the Frostbite thing, and all of them are, of course, set to reduce your stamina. Therefore, engaging in combat, you need to be really, really aware of your stamina as you're fighting. There's a couple different ways you can go about this quest, because the arena is quite large, and there's a couple different options you have for either trying to exploit them and kick them into, to ledge them, effectively, or to kick them into spike walls and things like that. But I'm going to showcase just my favorite area to handle this quest, because it's also a little bit safe, while having the opportunity to give you some jump attacks and a variety of other things of that nature without putting yourself at high risk next to the water yourself. That way, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. So get him up to this little edge here and take out the Warlord first. You can kick him off the edge, and then one or both of you can jump down to get the jump attack on him. Pretty simple to do there. You hang out for a little bit, and when the next guy comes, essentially the strategy is just rinse, wash, repeat. If for whatever reason the dodge attack fails, you can try to kick him into the water that's down there at the bottom when you land there to quickly finish it, or you can just come back up top again and try to finish it off that way. You know, it's kind of a whatever works thing. This one is particularly fun with a team, because if one person brings them up or one person just engages, the other person has a very easy time getting the bash off to actually pull them in. Shinobi, I particularly recommend this just for his nature as a drop attacker. Do note that jump attacks are surprisingly glitchy sometimes, and they can be really frustrating for that reason. And there will also be times where you jump too far and therefore don't get the jump attack. Also, I've had some times where I've kicked them off too far, and so they've fallen straight into that water pool standardly. And that's kind of fun to do. If you're trying to do it more honorable, I guess you could say, I still recommend going up to that platform, because it is one of the safest places to be and gives you a decently open area to deal with, but as well as some closed in space where you're going to be decently safe. And as in terms of the little ad archers, they're pretty easy to get rid of up here, and then you'll be in the clear for dealing with their fire in the future as well. And note, yeah, I still ledge a little bit in this honorable, but that one wasn't actually necessarily intentional. It worked out great, though. I was happy with it. So I finish out this fight with some revenge building. Effectively, again, just the key here, I'm going to say it again, is focus on your stamina. Over-attacking or over-defending will cause you to lose serious stamina just because of the buffs that these enemies have. So you do have to be aware of that, because going out of stamina is a serious negative on your part. If you ever go out of stamina, it's a lot of health that you'll lose. Even with just rank 1 Frostbite, I'm pretty sure a single round of going out of stamina is over a full bar of life. So at least 20 hit points. And so that's definitely nothing to laugh at. Eventually, as you're carrying on in the fight, all 3 of the enemies, as you saw in the first part of the video as well, the first part of this segment, will slowly and eventually track to you and come up here. And you can just use whatever you have at your disposal, essentially, to take them out. None of these AIs seem extremely hard. They will still parry you if you're not being careful, but none of them are like... Sometimes they'll guard break you and let you get away without damage. Sometimes they'll parry you even and not do a counterattack against you. And sometimes they just let hits slide through. I was actually kind of surprised with how easy it was to deal with most of the people in the duration of this quest. So this final phase, the battle for Hrimar, is just you up against a shaman. I make this look really easy in this first clip that I'm going to share here, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not this easy. She does a lot of stamina damage on attacks. This essentially means if she gets 2 light attacks on you, you're out of stamina, or if she gets a light attack out of you while you're swinging an attack, you're out of stamina. And with your Frostbite level 3, that's like a good 45 hit point damage that you're going to take just from falling out of stamina. So there's 2 ways to handle this. If you're going solo, I recommend just trying to go in fast, go in hard before the archers start hitting you. If you manage to pull this off right and you get really lucky like I did here, you can completely turn the tables on her and have the quest finished in no time. If you don't get lucky, unfortunately the archers are going to hassle you. Now there are a lot of ledges at your leisure to use, so if you're having trouble, you can of course attempt to go with the ledge scenario, but honestly you should be able to get this fight as long as you're careful, though the shaman is going to get some attacks through at some point and stamina break you. Part of the reason I recommended having a friend is even in this quest, the revenge isn't terrible to deal with, especially if one of you is very fast and able to just like avoid and annoy the opponent while your friend takes out the archers. But essentially the strategy with 2 people here is have one person just kind of bother the shaman at first, not even attempting to kill him, while the other person runs around and takes out all the archers. Once all the archers are done, then you take turns engaging the shaman, doing your best to just save the opponent save your friend whenever they get knocked out of stamina. Because like I said, you get hit once or twice and you're going to be out of stamina, and of course, the only way to avoid the shaman's serious out of stamina punishes is to have a friend that can knock the shaman out of whatever she's doing. Follow through and just kind of watch each other, handle it a little slower with some grace as you're going through it, and you'll come out on top. Sometimes it'll take a few attempts, and certainly there'll be some times where you get killed really, really fast, but you keep working at it, and you'll have the win in the bag. This quest, like I said, is fairly simple, fairly enjoyable too. So as for that exact reason, that I'll probably be farming this quest quite a bit. So I had a little debate in the For Honor forums recently about the drop rate of the effects in arcade quests. At first I thought they were pretty common, but I ran into a fellow who apparently was having terrible luck at getting them. And I tried to figure out a little bit about what affects their drop rate, and I can say pretty securely now that I don't think the speed of the run affects the drop rate. What I mean by that is normally, with almost anything in For Honor, the longer a match takes, the more rewards you get. I do not think that is the case in terms of the drop rate for the effects from these quests. And I think that because I had a few quests where I literally cleared in less than 6 minutes, even just this one, and got an effect out of it. So it's kind of hard to tell what exactly goes into it, but I recommend if you're trying to farm the effects, speedrunning the quest. Use the exploits, use the spike walls, and hopefully you'll be able to get some of the new either Pink Plasma Shock or the Crimson Conquest if you're still working on your collection of that one. Anyways, this is a really fun weekly quest. Just wanted to close with that, and I hope you all remember that modifiers very much modify your playstyle. And in this one in particular, the big focus is managing your stamina. With that, Vendel out. Have a good week.